studio. Please welcome the hosts of Dev Central Connects, John Wagnon and Jason Rahm.
It's always fun to hear from our good friend Pete Silva bringing us into this thing. So, hey, everybody, I'm John, and this is Jason, and we're Dev Central Connects live streaming to you right now, and we're excited to be here. And we're streaming to all the places like we always do, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. You know, if you can stream to it, we do it. So, Jason, it's good to see you, my friend. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Yeah, in fact, with Facebook, we're not streaming to just one, but two, right? The F5 networks and the F5 Dev Central. So we're everywhere on Facebook.
Yeah. The only thing better than streaming to one Facebook location is streaming to two Facebook locations. So that's what we do. Well, hey, Jason, I got a really quick question. I know we've got an awesome show today, but I haven't asked you one of these kind of lead-in sort of questions lately. And we just went into the fall, season of the year, right? Autumn, fall. And it makes me think, everyone's talking about pumpkin spice everything, pumpkin spice latte or whatever. And it made me wonder if you had like a hot beverage of your choice, what would that be? What's your hot beverage of choice?
Wow. I actually don't really like hot beverages. So it would be
good answer.
like Brewster's Millions, check none of the above.
Yes, exactly. It's not. It's like all the above or none of the above. None of the above, please. Exactly. No, I'm not a hot
I guess I could do a cocoa if I've been out cutting a Christmas tree down before, because that was a tradition when we were growing up. Like we went to the tree farm, we cut a tree down, we're freezing our tails off, we go to the barn, everybody has a cup of cocoa. And so I guess it would be hot cocoa if I had to pick a hot drink.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you can, I think there's an easy way to consume chocolate. If you have a chocolate bar or whatever, and it's like, okay, if I have to have a hot beverage, just make it a bunch of chocolate. That's it makes it go down a little easier. So good stuff, man. All right. Well, hey, it's that time of year, so we're into the hot beverages and all that. So I was just curious. So good deal. But hey, man, we got a great show today,
yours?
Right? Say again.
What about yours?
Yeah, I would say probably like the hot chocolate. You know what I've kind of been into is not just the traditional hot chocolate, but the white chocolate, the white hot chocolate. So it's a little more of a vanilla kind of flavor to it. So that's probably what mine would be.
Is that even real chocolate? I don't think so. I think that
it's a little. Yeah, it's a little too floofy. It's a little too, is that really something I want to admit right here on the live stream? But clearly I just did. So, I don't know. Maybe it's not even a real hot beverage or not. I don't know. But I would lean more toward the chocolate drinks as well. So you can't go wrong, right?
Yeah, not a stiff cup of black coffee, huh?
No, I've never been a huge coffee guy. So that may be, one of my downfalls. I don't know, but it's it's all good. Well, good stuff, man. Well, hey, so today we've got an awesome show. We got a couple of great guys from F5 that know everything about everything. So this is going to be, hey, everybody out there watching, make sure you ask a lot of questions. And these guys are amazing, talking about our customer engagement center and all of that stuff, right? So Jason, what do you think, man? Maybe we bring them on?
Let's do it.
All right. So it's John, Calalang, and Vinny Mazza. Welcome to Dev Central Connects, guys. It's good to have you here.
Thanks. I don't know who to talk first.
Great to be here. That's always the challenge when there's two people, and that was my fault. I should have said, hey, John, good to see you. Let you talk. Then Vinny. So bad hosting job on my part. I apologize. Good.
You got to move over to drinking chocolate. It's not quite hot chocolate, but drinking chocolate is actually a thing. So it's even more. Yeah. It's like, it's not hot chocolate, but look it up.
So John, I kind of envision you with like the chocolate fondue fountain and the chocolates just and you just get your mouth under there, and
it's
just
over here. You just can't see it. When I'm on break. Yeah.
Slightly off camera. The camera angles are beautiful and they're in your space. I love it. Good deal, man. Well, that's awesome. Well, Vinny, how about you, man? Do you have like a chocolate drink or a hot drink of your choice?
Well, as a native Floridian, we don't do a whole lot of hot drinks, but I was really surprised that you guys left out the entire world of spiced ciders for like the 2 months out of the year that were cold enough to drink something like that.
That's right.
So I'd probably stick there.
Well, good for you for bringing that up, because you're right. I actually do enjoy a good like spiced apple cider. I've had the wassail. Have you ever had that? Or maybe I'm not pronouncing that right. Have you ever heard of that? It's like a fruity kind of, spicy hot drink, during the wintertime. So yeah, it's fantastic. Well, good to go, man. Well, hey guys, I really appreciate you being here with us today. We wanted to talk about this, digital customer engagement center. And for those that don't know, F5's got this really super cool, like, top floor of the tower kind of space. Back in the day when we would actually be able to go there, right? And it's this super sophisticated, like, customers could come in and enjoy this experience and like get different presentations and all that. But now we've got this digital version. So I just wanted to kick it over to you guys. Tell us about this thing, and then we'll start to dig into some of the details.
Yeah. So just like you were talking about, the one in the tower, we used to have offices on Elliott for anybody who's been with us for a while. And when you walked in there was a wall of data center with F5 gear and all the lights are glowing. And you got this wow moment of look at all this stuff and it actually works and it's running. And that's kind of been gone, right? Between cloud and now not being able to go in person to a lot of things. So we were like, well, that's a great name for this project. And the project was really born out of crawling through a lot of ARM templates and CFTs and GDM templates and all the different cloud providers' native kind of automation tooling. And while we were building the secure cloud architecture example, so it's another kind of smaller specific use case of using automation to build an environment as an example for customers and our engineers to learn from, share, and demonstrate the products with, right? And so we started. After all that fun, we started working with this really great tool. You may have heard of it, Terraform from HashiCorp, and spent some time and started to really enjoy their kind of module framework that they had built. Right, so we can take and use some dry principles to do not repeat yourself, and allow people who aren't necessarily experts in each cloud to build resources without knowing all of it out of the gate, right? So we can kind of Lego brick together solutions for each other that we call. And so in we set some bars around what a solution is and that it should solve something. It's not just turn the lights on and say, wow, right? It's not, they're a little bit past hello world, if you want to think of it from a coding perspective. And so a big part of this project was great. So we have lots of content, and if you're doing F5 anything, you find Dev Central, you find GitHub, you search Google, like everything's all over the place, right? And we wanted to try and centralize some of these examples in a more community-focused way, because we obviously have our supported templates from the other stuff that F5 proper is supporting, but sometimes you need to do something a little faster, to get out there and work with, say, the infrastructure as code groups, and be able to move ahead. And get that delivered faster to show cool new things, right? That's our world, right? And we just wanted to extend that work and reuse it and refine it, right? So that we weren't having disparate examples all over the place, and that people who wouldn't have been able to showcase their solution because they didn't know how to build a particular cloud environment now are beyond this, right? And it's really, we didn't create the idea, we're just leveraging that modular approach of, let me drop these Legos into, I need a network, I need a big IP, I need Nginx, I need, some cloud service like a secrets manager. All those things are kind of layered in, and we can just kind of grab them. And so this allows us to get to really the audiences we considered for this, right? And the first one being our consumer. So somebody who wants that wow moment we talked about walking into the office. They don't really need to know how it all works. They just needed to turn the keys and watch the car come on and see all the lights go, right? Kind of like that rocket behind Jason there. So
behind Jason, yeah.
So that's an awesome rocket, man. So we want that. That's super cool, right? And then those are the consumers who are they just really need to see it, right? They don't need to understand. They're not there to add to it. But that's when we got to our, our creators and builders who are kind of adding to this solution or creating additional resources for us to leverage or use, right? And I think John's got some pretty nice examples on how those personas can use this framework. So
beautiful. Yeah. So John Calalang, really quick, maybe tell us just a quick minute about like your part of this, and then let's launch into what you have to show us. I love it.
Yeah. So everyone has a different role, I would say, in the DCEC. Vinny and I and a couple other people started it. I don't want to take credit where it's not due, but it grew organically. So a lot of individuals saw the benefit in not having to recreate a bunch of stuff, right? I want to just highlight this one thing, but I don't understand how the best practice is for an F5 landing in AWS. But Vinny does, right? So if Vinny can build something like the best practice landing point, or Yossi, another individual in our group, or Matt or Jeff, and give everybody credit, I can reference what they have, and then I can work towards solutions. So I get tasked fairly often to build a solution, right? I had one last week for upgrading big IPs. I had one earlier this year for doing like a modern delivery of Nginx. And I put them in here because it's a nice spot where I can go highlight that amazing technology, but I don't have to understand everything else. I don't have to recreate the wheel every single time. So I'm a solution owner. I work towards putting solutions in here. And then I also help on the documentation and then setting guidelines around how everybody can contribute and what things should look like. So I'm going to share, I guess, the how it all kind of fits together and what that looks like. Can you share my screen, or is it already sharing? Here we go.
Got it.
So we created our own landing environment, and consumers happen in a couple different ways. Consumer could be somebody that just wants to read. They want to come look at the documentation. They want to see the different solutions that are available. I'll highlight these over in just a minute. Or it could be a consumer of code. Everything that we build in here has a reflection of code examples. So the doc that's on this first page is actually living in this doc. We use a rendering engine to create that documentation page. So whenever we update, that could be a consumer too, right? Somebody that just wants to see documentation versus code. It all gets organized based off of quadrants. Now, whoever you want to call out on the quadrant creator, we use that term because it's easy to navigate, both in a UI and in a repository. So I want to work on solutions. I'm a consumer. Look, there's stuff in delivery. I want to work on big IPs and upgrade, or I want to work on Nginx. We're going to show this one in a second. But here's all that Terraform. It's the build out, the steps that you might possibly need, right? Or I could go the same way and say it's delivery, right? It's going to be big IP upgrade. And in here, it walks me through exactly what the solution's going to do. And then getting into building out an environment and all the pieces that's going to happen, or what I could show and highlight with the solution. So there's some solutions for ADC. There's some for security. There's more that are hidden that haven't become full-fledged solutions. So there's stuff living in the repository. But I'm a consumer, so I could consume this way. I could consume in code. I could just go look at the examples that Vinny's created, right? It's a nice way for me to be a consumer of it. I'm generally either an F5 employee that's trying to learn something of how maybe myself or Vinny created it, or I'm a customer. And that customer finds a Dev Central repository. They find a big IP repository. They're all over the place. What does it look like when I stitch it together? Oh, I can come look here. This is a good example. I know it's going to function because it's a solution. And I get that same glass-faced experience. Look at all the things that I can try and test, and I don't have to go anywhere else. It all exists in this environment. All right. I'm going to move into showing the code. So code, I already explained on. Everything that's created is created in Terraform. That's a first class for all the stuff we create in the environment. So when I go and I pull down this repository, I can use my own information or like landing area, or F5 provides one. Just like you walking into the building, we provide you with the, was it a car? We provide you with the car. Right? So you can walk in, get keys to the car, come into our environment, do all of the stuff that I'm describing within our environment, or we took an agnostic approach. You can take all of that and run it in your own car, right? Transferable motors. I don't know how you're going to paraphrase that.
I love it.
So I've pulled in the repo. I'm in two different areas. So you can see this one is the big IP. That's the one I showed earlier. And this one's Nginx. Once I'm in each one of these spots, all of the Terraform exists here for building. And we're not trying to make it confusing. So when you build a solution, it should be the same experience. Now, I created both of these, but that's just ironic. I could have chose other ones. But the mandate is everybody that's in here has to use a setup script, has to use a cleanup script. If you're going to go build more configuration down the road, maybe use a demo script, something that's outside of it. So if I want to launch something, it's the same everywhere I go, and I can see how that's going to work. So if I want to launch this one, and we'll say setup SH, this is going to launch a big IP in AWS. Now I'm already logged in, so I'm not going to share all my credentials. And I can do the same thing over here. So setup, if I can type, setup AWS. This one on the right-hand side, build the Kubernetes cluster in AWS. It gets you to a point where you can pull an Nginx as an ingress and see how it's going to run. The one on the right builds 2 big IPs that are older versions where you can test upgrades. Like that seems like a good solution for people to be able to go and log into. So this one's going to start building. We're never going to finish these builds because it's going to take a bit. I got to grab some information. Oh, it doesn't really matter. I don't have the API key sitting in front of me. So I need the API key to launch it. But when it launches, like it would launch this one, I can launch both at the same time. I can go from seeing one shiny object in that glass window to seeing another shiny object at the same time, right? Bouncing around. And again, security, ADC style scenarios. So we really wanted the consumers to be different parts, right? The consumer of going to the tower is one person. They're there for the shiny tower experience of roadmaps and things. This consumer is someone that wants to know how it works, right? They want to see a functional code example of how these things can all go together. After we get past consumers, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, that for me, that's my persona, right? I like the fact that you can automate things and have easy buttons, but I also want to know what's under the hood. I want to see all the little nerd knobs that are being switched so that, you know, especially if I'm doing any kind of a security audit or whatever, that I know the things that are being built hit the standard of which whatever system I'm building is required to meet.
Absolutely. And I think we see that a lot, you know, bringing somebody that does day to day into the CEC, the real one, they want to know those nerdy questions. They want to see that stuff. Sometimes we can give it to them. Sometimes it's, you know, roadmap or questions. Here, I'm going to add those keys in there. So this one actually builds.
Well, thankfully they're ephemeral credentials, and but what I want to highlight, like traditionally, like when you go to the glass room, you have to leave it behind, right? The difference with this example is that you can go to GitHub, clone this, and run it yourself with your own keys. To John's point, and so that's where it really stands out because you can kind of take the glass room and run off and do your own version of it if you wanted to. So,
yeah, because we're building around consumers, it also allows us to build around developers. So the other personas that go in here, I'm a solution owner, right? We talked about consumers, so that's 2 personas. Another one is a module owner. So modules would be something that is a reusable chunk. So a normal term would be a Terraform module, and honestly, that's what we're calling them. Where maybe I don't want to build the VPC or the network or something that's going to be a reusable block. We have module owners as well. So our 3 personas are people that give us best practices for landing zones, solutions, right? And then consumers, like what we're talking about for people to consume this.
What's a landing zone?
A landing zone would be like a VPC. So both of these environments give me a landing zone of a VPC. In Azure, that's like a virtual private cloud, or AWS. In this scenario, I didn't have to create any of that. When I build my solution, let's see if I can actually just show you what this looks like. When I build my solution under main, I can just call in other modules. So this is a module to build an AWS environment on network min. And I don't have to create that because another module owner created that for me. So when Vinny, who created this one? Yossi? When Yossi creates this one, right, I can use it here and I can use it inside the other one. So if I, again, walk the tree of delivery.
Yossi being our global solution architect focused on AWS specifically, right? So
I can come in here and it looks the same. So I have solution around it, but this is exactly the same module. So as a solution owner, I can say, I want it to be in AWS. All the rest of this stuff is the stuff that I own as a solution, but I don't have to create that building block over and over and over again. So different types, right? Different roles within I guess the engagement center.
Well, and that speaks to your point earlier. It's like you don't want to have to build everything from scratch every time, because some people love that. They love building everything from scratch every single time. More power to you. But, having building blocks with which to start from lets you get on to the important stuff and the new stuff, the solution building stuff far more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a really important piece of that too is having the right tools, right? So in order to deal with tools and versioning and version pinning, we offer a development container, which is a practice that you'll see in GitHub code spaces. It's also available in just VS Code. You can leverage them through both. What it does is it stands up a container where I can pre-install all the tools you need to run each example or to do the development workflows, because we're using some linting tools and some enforced standards with the Terraform, and all that just becomes part of working in the repository. And so you can use this lots of different ways. We chose to do it, to help us deal with making sure we're all committing the same, formatting and the same versions of software, right? So you don't have to think about that as someone who's not familiar, or you don't have to modify your personal machine to get to use this stuff. You can just run the containers and get the same experience. So,
and now is the representation that you're having in VS Code, is that in addition to, like, is it built upon the F5 extension, or is it completely separate?
They're separate. You can leverage the F5 extension once it's added, and that's some of the customizations you can do to the dev container to add plugins or extensions you think are relevant. So often I'll add the F5 extension, the NIM extension for Nginx Instance Manager, and then some other tools, right? So those are available to be added.
Okay.
So it's different in Coder, John. There's a different marketplace for Coder, so that's why I pre-populate some of that in the containers for you. So you're in Coder right now, so it's a little different marketplace. So
okay, so yeah,
they're additive, Jason, if that helps. Like they're not dependent, but definitely can enhance your experience. So like, say John ran a big IP solution, and he then had outputs that collected information relevant to the VS Code extension. So like in some of my examples, what I would do is use Terraform to template out the configuration file that tells the extension where to find these new instances I create, and they just magically pop up in my list, right? Because the extension writer wrote a way to import devices from a file. So super cool stuff that he did. So
okay.
So a lot of
that's cool.
I do that in the example for Big IP, that same output. So if I'm building a Big IP, and you can see the example of ripping all this out, I end up spitting out output files to the concept of what Vinny's talking about. I guess I put it in a different spot. It's in main. But I spit out a file, which then in the file, I can reference for an external resource. So when this one's building, we use Terraform as the infrastructure management. But I was describing earlier, like you may have configuration management that happens after the fact. Ansible is installed in this environment. You're able to utilize that, right? The extension you could install, the SDK we can install. It's their requirements if you take them outside of the given one, like the card that we're going to hand you. But we can place them all in there so people can see how they're used, right? So like this one, I have Ansible running in here, and it's just got a simple role for building out the cluster after the thing comes up. And it gets Terraform hands a file to Ansible, and Ansible goes on its way building things out. So it's super repeatable. If anyone wanted to see an example of building a cluster, these are all the steps you need, right? And finding it in here might be a little bit, but you're either a solution owner or you're looking for code examples. So.
Right. Well, I love it. I love it that you're starting on the consumer side. It's like, hey, here's something that will build itself, and you can just look at it, because especially when people are getting started, like whether you're starting to learn a programming language or anything, being able to take something apart to see how it works is a little easier to get started than starting from scratch. And so, it's like that BASF, is that the company? It's like, we don't make many of the products that you use. We just make them better. It's like you have something to start from scratch, and it might be a little bit easier, especially for the non-developers in the world who are adopting a role into the development world with this whole infrastructure as code push. Having something to reference, having something to kind of hold on to, might make the transition a little easier.
Yeah.
Yep.
We We try to take both. I mean, I want to give a lot to consumers, but developers for solutions should also have a very similar experience.
Yeah.
Like, you can pretty much read any of the Gene Kim books, but everybody should have the same experience when they're working on something. So giving, Vinny, myself, Yossi, any other person that's developing a solution, a working environment for them to do exactly what they need to do, that's important. And seeing how we have to manage it, that could just be something that you go talk about to your peers at a company. Like, F5 is doing it this way. This is how they manage an external resource, testing environments, builds. Like, it's just a good example or some things that we can follow. So even just the management of it, it's been a fun experience.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're getting close on time. From a developer standpoint, for those who are not just going to consume the solutions, whether they're our internal F5 audience or our external audience, how do they get started on the contribution standpoint?
Yeah, so contributions can happen in a couple different ways. I highlighted them on here. Modules we talked about. Developers are really any person outside of documentation. And you could be a developer for documentation, but it's going to be pretty difficult. So it's usually module owner solutions or frameworks. So you got to decide, if I'm going to work on that dev container, that's a framework person, right? That's somebody that's working on providing a framework for people to work in. Or I'm going to write a module like that AWS one I highlighted, or you're going to write a solution like the one that I did. After you've decided where you're going to do the work, you're definitely in developer guides. So getting involved, right? Honestly, there's some stuff around different kinds, how the formatting has to go inside solutions, because this is a solution one, right? Or if you're going to be a module owner, attempt to use community. These are just the best practices. Once you kind of get through here, you move on into getting started, which I was highlighting a little bit ago. You got to get your environment ready. Even though we let you pull in the dev container, you still got to have like Docker installed. I can't make that happen for you. So have Docker installed, pull it in, rebuild in the container, and then you're in the container. At that point, we start working in code spaces. You're working in the environment. So you're here. You got to set up your environment to be able to do pushes. This is all in the Dev Central account. So you don't need too many things to get access to the Dev Central account. It's all public. Bringing it in, creating a branch. We walk you through that. Highlighting the fact that this is developer, you should have some experience with using Git. So being able to come in, use this, create a pull request, and then bring it in. Once you bring it in, it goes through an approval process. We do utilize code owners inside the environment. So I'll show you what a code owner looks like in case nobody's seen this before. Code owners are approvals for different types of things. So as we mentioned earlier, Yossi owns the module for AWS. I shouldn't stomp on his stuff when I'm creating something. He has to approve a change in that area. So I own these two, right? You can't stomp on my stuff without you telling me or me basically approving it. So you bring it in, it goes through the approval process. Likely it's going to get approved because we just want more things in here. Right. It goes in, add yourself into here, right? And it progresses on. So now you're at that point as a developer and you show up, right, under insights and contributors. So there's a whole bunch of people that work on it. Almost everybody here is at F5. I don't think there's any that's not. Most people should recognize this person, at least for you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're in, right? That's working in it as a developer. It takes in new technologies, right? We try to use best practices, but you get to participate, highlight the stuff you want to show.
So for your non-F5ers out there, fork the project and get started and pull requests. We're ready for them. Is that what you're telling me?
We're ready. Yeah.
All right.
Read the docs first.
Read the docs. Yeah.
RTFM, right?
I didn't know if I could say that or not.
You could say
the docs are always in progress, so I wouldn't go that far yet.
read the friendly manual, right?
Yes,
that's right.
So, all right, we got one question for you, Vinny. Must know more about I don't even know how to pronounce that.
Finidini. So my buddy's he's Chamorro. And he's from Guam, and he introduced me to a magical liquid called Finidini. If you ask him, he says it's just soy sauce and vinegar. but that's because each family makes their own variation of it regionally, and it's amazing on just about anything. So definitely.
So you don't drink this liquid, Vinny. You put
I
it on top of food.
I suppose you could, but I mean, everything has consequences, right? So
yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I got a friend from high school. I haven't talked to him since high school, but he's also from Guam, and he has a line of like gluten-free soy sauces. So I didn't know that was a Guam thing.
It's awesome. Yeah, if you haven't had it, find a place to get it. It's fantastic.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Vinny, John, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited about this project. I'm excited about trying out some of those solutions myself as a consumer first, and then maybe you'll see some of my pull requests you can reject readily here before the end of the year. That'll be fun.
John already said the magic thing. He said they don't reject; they just accept everything. Right?
Right now, maybe I'll make an exception. Yeah.
As soon as Jason Rahm pull requests, though, then that's when the tide turns. Right.
We'll give him his own release, so you can have a special number just for him that he pulls.
Right.
So maybe we'll do a show where John and I go through the process of building a solution, and then we'll have you guys back to tell us how we did.
Right.
So.
Right.
All right.
So, well, I guess on that note, there is an example solution folder in there. So that's where
there you go.
Clone it and then start building out. Yeah.
Skeleton, kind of like if you use like a framework, like a Node or something else, where they give you like an example project or Go, they do similar things. So that was the idea.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, cool. Well, it sounds like you guys have all the boxes checked for equipping people to get moving. So I'm excited about the Digital Customer Experience Center, and hopefully everyone watching or who will watch this on the replay is as well. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Awesome, man. Vinny and John, man, two great guys, man. Like you said, they've given all the building blocks. They've laid it all out there. Now it's just time to go start building stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's exciting. Well, John, we are over, but we have some exciting stuff happening in October, right? We are going to celebrate like last year. We celebrated Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we're going to do it again this month. And not only we're doing that, but we got a whole host of new shows we're doing. So we're going to be Dev Central Connects every Thursday, 12:30 Pacific. But we're also starting a whole new series at 9:30 Pacific on Tuesdays. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. And Boo Lamb, our very new, not to F5 because he's been a solutions engineer for, he's been here 10 years plus.
Yeah, it's been a while. We saw him on that page just a second ago. So
there you go. Yeah, so he's been here a while, and but he's now a member of Dev Central. He's going to have his own show starting the first Tuesday of the month, rather, every month, and that's At the Edge. And his debut show is next Tuesday on the 5th. So make sure you check that out. And of course, we're back here next Thursday. John, you and Boo are actually going to host that show. And that's right. Elevating your security posture. So that's going to be, we have a fantastic guest in line for that. And go ahead.
Well, that show, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be really interesting. The kind of the premise behind it, or the kind of the phrase that we've used as we've kind of talked about it, is good cybersecurity advice gone bad. So it is certainly elevating your posture, but it's like, hey, what's some advice that we always used to get that has suddenly turned bad with time? That has not aged well, kind of a thing.
Right.
It's gonna be pretty cool. So
it's gonna be a good conversation. I can't wait to tune in and watch you guys for that. So that's the show, people. Subscribe if you want to see more of this content and be reminded of it. Click like if you like this show, and we'll see you out there in the community. Thank you so much.
A lot of fun. Thanks, Jason.